Hi, this is Prashant Bharadwaj. In this module, I'm going to talk about productivity. Productivity, according to me, is one of the most important metrics or measures in a business. Even when you're looking at an entire economy, productivity is a very important measure. So what is productivity? It's simply the ratio of outputs divided by the inputs. So it is the value created is in the numerator, and in the denominator is all the inputs that you need to create that value. So what are the inputs that you would have? Labor, capital, all kinds of other things that you need to create value in an organization. Whether you are again producing an automobile or you're delivering healthcare service, you need inputs. So what is productivity? The idea of enhancing the numerator, which is the value that the customer or the client gets, or decreasing the cost required, that is the amount of labor and capital required, or doing both, looking at both the numerator, enhancing it, as well as decreasing the denominator. So the objective of any business or organization is to improve productivity over time. Why is improving productivity critical? Let's look at it simply. If you don't improve productivity, what will happen to the organization? If you don't enhance the value that the customer is getting or reduce the cost that you're incurring, can you charge more to the customer? Obviously not. Because if you charge more to the customer with no additional value, you're not going to get enough business. So with productivity, you are able to charge the customer more. With productivity, you're able to improve your bottom line better because you're going to decrease the cost. So over the long run, if you don't improve productivity, the business itself cannot get more money. It cannot pay its employees more money. If you look at it in a macroeconomic way, without improving productivity, the standard of living in a particular country or region cannot improve. So productivity is tied to not only net profits in a business, but also the standard of living in an entire nation. So if you're looking at productivity for a country, it is measured by the growth in GDP. That is your numerator, the gross domestic product. And the denominator is the workforce, population in the country which is working. All the adult population minus the military and agricultural workforce, that is your denominator, which does not vary a whole lot. So if you look at the increase in the GDP, the growth in GDP, that will tell you the productivity growth in a nation. So the first and most important reason to improve productivity is to make sure that the wages for the employees in the organization goes up, the net profits for the organization goes up, the standard of living in the entire nation goes up. The second reason is, okay, you are Walmart. Your productivity is increasing. Fantastic. But how about your competition? Kmart, Target, so on. What if their productivity is increasing at a faster rate than yours? Then you have a problem. You're not as competitive. What if you're a nation, United States? Your productivity is increasing, but not at the same rate at which the productivity of other countries are increasing. You always talk about the GDP growth in China in double digits, now reducing to about 8% or so, still significantly higher than 1-2% growth in many of the Western European and US in the last decade plus. So the productivity increase is critical not only for an organization, it is also important for a country. Look at what happened in the 1980s. The productivity of Japan was enhancing dramatically compared to that of the Western European countries and the United States. Then it became stagnant in the 1990s, the lost decade in Japan. So productivity is a very important factor at an individual level also, which I didn't mention. As you will realize in your professions, if your productivity does not increase, that is, with the same time, you don't have more than 24 hours in a day. In that time that you have, the working time that you have, can you do more? Can you be more productive? If the answer to that is yes, your standard of living will also grow. If not, it is not easy for your standard of living to go up. So the two reasons for a business to look at productivity very closely: number one, it helps in enhancing wages and reducing the cost, improving the net profit, increasing value to the customer. The second reason is competitiveness. It is important to enhance productivity at a greater rate than that of your competition. Now, why do we discuss productivity in operations management class? Look at the definition of productivity: output divided by input. If you are marketing, you have no control over the denominator, that is the inputs. Typically, marketing deals with the output. If you are looking at finance, finance has a lot of say in the inputs. What kind of capital? Human resource has again an impact on the inputs. The kind of people we hire, how many people, and so on. Same thing with purchasing. Purchasing has an impact on the inputs, the raw materials that are used, the components that are used. But look at operations. What is operations? Converting the inputs into outputs. The transformation process of inputs to outputs. Operations is the only function in business that can decrease the inputs, the cost incurred in the inputs, as well as enhance the value of the outputs. It can address both the numerator and the denominator of the productivity equation. That is why it is important to address productivity in the operations management class, which we'll discuss in more detail. So for today, I want you to understand the importance of operations management in enhancing productivity, and also why productivity is an important metric in organizations. And look at this slide from the book. Labor on average contributes only 10% of the annual increase in productivity. Capital about 38%. The remaining 52% is managing all the resources. That is what operations management does. Managing the inputs, managing the outputs. So what you study here in this particular subject, managing inventory, managing capacity, managing production, service, projects, layouts, locations, all of these are so critical in enhancing productivity. One last thing in the introduction, which is not going to start and end in this particular module, which is ethics and social responsibility. This will be a common theme in the entire subject. As I discussed earlier, today's operations managers are faced with more challenges than ever before. At one time, operations managers' job was to produce good quality at low cost, period. But today, while that is still important, there are added responsibilities for an operations manager: safety, clean environment, a safe workplace, honoring community commitments. All of these are important. Let me take a quick example of companies around the world. Look at Foxconn in Taiwan and China. It's a Taiwanese company which is the biggest contract manufacturer for Apple and many other companies around the world. The problem with that company is not the traditional operations management. They're able to produce at low cost. They're able to produce acceptable quality for companies like Apple, but providing a safe workplace for its employees, good working conditions, has been a challenge. Even in a country like China, there are a lot of agitations by employees in that country, in that company. Maintaining clean environment is a problem in majority of the countries around the world. It is very important that we address that as operations managers. So as we discuss several topics in this subject, this theme of ethics and social responsibility will recur. This completes the introduction to the subject. Thank you.